Hey, it's Rachel with Journey Back Quilts. Today we're going to continue our series on these traditional quilt blocks. Today's quilt block we're going to be making is the pinwheel block. Let's get going. To make a pinwheel block, we're going to need several different pieces of fabric. I'm going to use two 6-inch pieces of blue with two 6-inch pieces of pink and 6-inch backgrounds. We need 4 of those. And we're going to be making half square triangles 4 at a time. So you can make this as scrappy as you want to. You could use 4 different colored background fabrics or colored fabrics, background fabrics. I mean, this is a very versatile quilt block. So have fun with it. We're going to put these into half square triangles, making them 4 at a time. So to learn how to do that, just watch my tutorial up here in the link above, and I'll see you back here after you're done sewing those together and squaring them up to 3.5 inches. Now that we have all of those squared up to 3.5 inches, we're going to make our pinwheel block. So I'm going to grab a design board here, and this pinwheel block, you could make lots of them. You can make one giant one, however you want to do it, but we're going to make 4 for this quilt block. So what I start with is I just put out my blocks exactly the same, going the same direction, just like that. And this makes a really cool quilt block as well. So you could just layer them all going the same direction, just like that. And then what you're going to do is take one piece and just flip it 1 step. And then the next one's going to go 2 steps. 1, 2. This one's going to go 3 steps. 1, 2, 3. Ta-da! And there's our pinwheel. So we're just going to make these 4, like a 4 patch. And we're going to do the same thing to this one. And do the exact same thing to the pinks. So now that you can see the layout, you can just put your blocks exactly like the other one is. And the really cool thing is, if you took this exact same layout and just flipped it this way, it matches. Well, it should match. It matches exactly what this one is. Isn't that cool? So what you can do is just sew all of them, chain piecing them all the same direction. Just lay them all out going 1 down, 1 up. And then once you're done, you'll just rotate that entire block or half of the block to get them to match up. So that's what I'm going to do. I love chain piecing. I want it to go fast and easy. So we're just going to put these the exact same direction, flip these 2 over, sew them down 1/4 inch seam, and do the exact same thing to the entire stack on both sides. So let's go to the sewing machine. For half square triangles, I like to start with a leader fabric, and that's just a little scrap of fabric, usually one in my trash can that I'm not going to use anyway, and that helps to keep the threads up above the machine so that the needle is less likely to push down all of these bulky seams into the machine. So again, we're going to put those right sides together, and you can see that you'll have your pink on the white on either side, so they're opposites, and they kind of nest. The seams will nest right there, so that makes it a lot easier to know you're doing it right. And just sew it down at a 1/4 inch seam. Same deal, we're going to put them right sides together. So have fun doing this step, and I'll see you back at the ironing board in just a second. Now that they're sewn in pairs of 2, we're going to just iron them going towards this side of the block so that we can hide the seam underneath our colored side of the block and away from our background. So I'm just going to lift up this side and press that seam over to that side. And we're just going to do that to all of them, the exact same thing to all of these blocks. Okay, so we're going to take 2 of these pieces and we're going to flip one around. Now if you did it this way, you'd have a really cool hourglass looking block, but if you move it down here, you've got a really pretty pinwheel. And you'll see there's a 1/4 inch from your point to the end so that your points don't get chopped off when you sew these together. So you're going to put it right sides together, match up those seams so that they nest, and then sew that down at a 1/4 inch seam. So we're going to do the same exact thing to all of these to make 4 6.5 inch blocks, and then we'll sew them all together to make one 12.5 inch block. So let's go to the sewing machine. So again, I'm just going to worry about nesting the seam in the middle, then lining up the raw edges. I already have my leader fabric started. Sew that down at a 1/4 inch seam. Now it does get pretty bumpy right here because you've got a lot of seams going. So we're going to nest those seams again. Double check it's going the right direction. So when you start to get to this bulky seam, there is a trick that I learned. If you take some scrap piece of fabric and fold it up so it's about the same thickness of your block, lift your foot and stick it under there in the back, it will go over these seams so much easier because it's not having to go up the hill to go over it. And then you can just reuse that little piece over and over again. So instead of plowing over them, you can just gently glide over them now. Isn't that cool? So I'm getting to that bulky seam. I'm going to stop, fold up my fabric, stick it under my foot, arrange my layers, and now drive over that easily. Ta-da! I love it. So easy. One more. Make sure they're going the right direction. Nest the seams. Line up your raw edges. 1/4 inch seam. Pause. Tuck. Line up and go. Oop, didn't work that well. That one didn't work. All right, let's go back to the ironing board after we clip apart these connecting threads. And I'm going to show you how to spin the seams so you get a mini pinwheel on the back. This is a fun way to iron. So if you take a look at your seams going vertically, you can see one's going towards the left and one's going towards the right. So we want to spin these seams that we just sewed as well so that they're kind of going in a pinwheel. So this one's going to go up and this one's going to come down. Now sometimes there's a little piece of stitch right there in the middle that we just need to pop out, and this is not securing your block at all. This is just from when we first sewed the 2 pieces together. So we can pop that one out. We don't need it anymore, and that will help our block to lay flat. So we're going to push this one down, push this one over, and see if it popped open this time. So I'm going to iron this one going up, hit that seam right there in the center, and push this one down. And right here in the center, you can see this miniature pinwheel somewhat. The seam isn't wanting to lay flat. There we go. Give it a good press. And then you can see this tiny little pinwheel. I like to iron it from the other side too, just make sure everything is laying flat. And if you have a clapper, just use that to help set that seam so that it takes the heat away and it makes it lay a lot flatter, especially because that center point has a lot of seams going into it. So it's going to help lay it a lot flatter. So again, I'm going to pop open that little tiny seam. Oh, this one you can see a lot better. There we go. Okay, so I'm going to iron this side going up, hit that with the nose, and then make this one go down. There we go. Look at that. You can see that cute little pinwheel, just perfect on that one. So make sure you do it from the front too. Make sure it opened up all those seams, that we don't have any weird folds going on. So now we have two beautiful blue blocks, and now we need to do the same thing to the pink blocks. So I'll see you back here in just a second. The next step is we want to square these up to 6.5 inches. So 3 1/4 is our center point. So we've got 3 1/4 running this way and 3 1/4 this way, hitting right there in the middle. And that will show us if we have any fabric that needs squared up on the side. You'll also notice that the diagonal of the ruler is going to sit right there on that diagonal of your block. And you may need to just scooch things around just to see how it's looking. Okay, I've got just a hair on this side and a hair on this side. I'm going to just rotate that. Should have closed my rotary blade. Double check that's lined up. And then square it up on this side. Okay, so go ahead and square all 4 of these up, and I'll see you back here in a second. Look at those perfect pinwheels. Aren't those beautiful? So now I'm just going to sew them in opposite colors like a 4-patch. So these two are going to go together, and the seams are going the opposite direction, so they're going to nest. Same here and here and here. Oh, I love it. So we're going to sew these two together and these two together. Then we'll iron the seams in opposite directions so that we can nest this seam as well. So let's take this to the sewing machine. I am going to start with my leader fabric still, because we still are working with a lot of thick, bulky seams. So I'm going to nest those seams in the center, line it up, and then line up this one. The cool thing is the colors kind of nest too. Okay, clip apart those connecting threads. Just going to get my leader fabric started again. Let's go to the ironing board with these two. So we want to iron them going towards the same block. So I'm going to iron them towards the pink block. It really doesn't matter which direction you want to go, as long as you do them the same. And if you're making a whole bunch of these blocks to make a whole quilt, this would make an awesome baby quilt. You would just want to make sure you iron them all towards the same direction so that when you flip them, you'll have those nested seams. Okay, isn't that so cute? I love it. So we're going to just put those right sides together, nest the seam, and then go sew it down. So you'll have a few nested seams here. So I'm just going to start with this first one and this first little half square triangle. Once I get past that point, then I'll pause, keep my needle down, and readjust this one. Make sure that it is locked in place, that everything feels good. Sew past that one, and then readjust this last one. If we sewed everything at a 1/4 inch seam and we ironed everything right, everything should nest just right. Okay, let's take it to the ironing board one more time. And again, we can spin these seams again. So this time, this one's going towards the right and this is to the left. So we need to put this one down and this one up. So I'm going to just pop that seam apart. If there's a little thread right there holding it together, it doesn't matter for the long scheme of things in your block. That was just when we sewed these 2 pieces together or these 2 pieces together. So we don't need that stitch anymore right here because the seam going this way is holding everything together. Okay, so this seam is going to go down and just hit that seam right there in the middle with your iron. And then push this one up. And there we go. We have this mini pinwheel kind of looking thing right here with 2 blues and 2 pinks. So cute. I'm going to switch it over and look at all those perfect points. Is that exciting? If you've been struggling with getting perfect points, I hope that this video helped you. If it did, leave me a comment in the comment box or share this with a friend, like, subscribe, all the things. And one last thing we want to do is just make sure this is measuring 12.5 inches. So I've got my 12.5 inch ruler here, and I'm going to put 6 1/4 right in the middle with the line running right through it and this way as well, and just see if I have anything I need to trim up. It's looking pretty good. There might be a little bit on this side. Maybe. Sometimes it takes a little bit of just spinning it just a little bit to get that diagonal to sit right and to get these just sitting just right. And if it's not 100% perfect, it's okay. I've got just a tiny bit of fabric right there that it's not hitting on, but that makes my block look really good. I don't think I have anything to square up. Yay! Great job making this pinwheel block. Hey, thanks so much for joining me today and making this pinwheel block. I hope that you enjoyed this and you're going to make one for yourself. We have a free Facebook group that you can post pictures of all these quilt blocks that you're making, and we would love to see them. The link is in the description box below. If you'd like more tips, tricks, and tutorials, I invite you to join our society, where you will get a library full of quilting tutorials just like this one to help you in your quilting journey, along with other benefits a society member gets. Next week, we're going to be making the Sawtooth Star. I'll see you then. Next week, we're going to be making the Sawtooth Star. Sawtooth Star quilt block.